Battlecry of Freedom by Ngakma Nor'dzin.
Part 2. The Slogans. Slogan 12. Drive all blames into one.
Leilan tamche chigla da.
When lying on the ground looking up at the horse, the realized rider takes the blame for being thrown. When I am in the saddle, I have the identity of a rider. When I am in the stable grooming the horse, I have the identity of a groom. When I am lying in the dirt, watching the horse disappearing down the trail, I have the identity of a pedestrian. The identity of rider dissolves into emptiness when I dismount. The identity of groom dissolves into emptiness when I leave the stable. The identity of pedestrian dissolves into emptiness when I find my horse grazing and get back in the saddle. Identity arises, abides, and dissolves, as is the same with all phenomena. Any impression of continuation is illusory. I am the rider, the groom, or the pedestrian, and each identity has unique qualities and attributes. Any sense of something moving without changing between these identities is illusory. A soul or self cannot be found through analysis. The body may appear to be the same, but it continually changes and has more in common with the flow of a river than with the static quality of a rock. It is in constant change and flux. No thing abides unchanging and permanent in the human body. If not existing in the body, perhaps it may be felt that identity is therefore intangible, dwelling in energy or mind. Analysis, however, also cannot reveal anything that exists permanently and unchanging in the emotions or thoughts. Nothing remains exactly the same from one moment to the next. Through analysis, the mind is discovered to be fundamentally empty. The delusion that identity is a something that exists independently, continually, and without changing, creates the need to protect and support it. If I arrive at the yard wanting to groom my horse and someone else is already doing it, then my groom identity may feel threatened. If I cling to that identity, I may consider the other groom out of order and be aggressive. How dare she groom my horse when I wanted to do it? Groom identity has to either be asserted or allowed to dissolve into emptiness. If the latter is embraced, then rider identity can be grateful that the horse is already prepared for tacking and be appreciative.
Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche says, a popular phrase says, "Don't lay your trip on me." Interestingly, trips are laid on us, but not by anybody. We decide to take on those trips ourselves, and then we become resentful and angry.
The illusion of a self-existent identity is isolating and selfish. I am in pain, which is much more important than your pain. The illusion of a self-existent identity prevents enjoyment and appreciation. You are happy, but I cannot appreciate it because it is not my happiness. Pain is pain. The identity associated with pain is irrelevant. Practitioners wish to alleviate pain. Happiness is happiness. The identity associated with happiness is irrelevant. Practitioners enjoy and appreciate happiness and wish to increase it.
Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche says, all the trouble that we have had to endure until now has been caused by something that has never existed.
If I notice that a colleague at the yard has a beautiful saddle, in the moment of appreciation, I own that saddle. Through seeing the saddle and through identification with its beautiful qualities, it is owned by that identity in that moment. Happiness can arise about the existence of the saddle. Happiness can arise at appreciation of the saddle. Material ownership and identity do not need to enter the mix. If identity feels impoverished through not materially owning such a beautiful saddle, stealing the saddle will not increase happiness. Stealing will in fact destroy the purity and clarity of the happiness that arose through open appreciation in the moment.
Ngakpa Rinpoche quotes Blind Willie Johnson. "My mother, she taught me how to read. My mother, she taught me how to read. If I don't read, my mind be lost. Ain't nobody's fault but mine." There's always humour in blues concerning misfortune. Taking the blame is a powerful statement in this song, rather than a statement of pathetic failure.
In terms of activity in daily life, the practitioner adopts the stance, "I am to blame, ain't nobody's fault but mine." Taking responsibility for the fundamental mistake of believing in an inherent identity means being willing to take the blame for everything. This includes being willing to take responsibility for everyday occurrences, even if no blame is actually due. This is because ultimately the root blame is the mistaken belief in identity, whether that is a personal mistaken belief in an inherent identity or someone else's mistaken belief in identity. All unkind, angry, and hurtful responses and actions ultimately arise from the belief in an existent identity that must be supported and protected. Practitioners can take on the blame for everything by understanding that they are the cause of others' delusion. I own something that you like but cannot afford to own, therefore I am to blame for your unhappiness. This attitude makes it easy to give the item away, if that is appropriate. Let it go to the person who appreciates it. I see that you are angry. I am to blame for being the object that created that response. This attitude prevents a protective response. It is possible to apologize and try to create a happier state of mind for the angry person. The focus on the unhappiness behind anger is the concern, rather than identification with a threat of being the object of anger. There is a wish for an end to unhappiness, whether it is personal unhappiness or someone else's. To take the blame for everything is to understand the root cause of all pain and unhappiness as the belief in an inherently existent identity. Practitioners take responsibility for this mistaken view. To be able to embrace the view of taking on the blame for anything and everything is the most extraordinarily powerful practice of awakening.